Hello there! So I recently hit 10K and I wanted to try my hand at making something bigger, so I have decided to review 50 webcomics in 10 words or less. I chose to do this because I love comics, the layouts, coloring, inking, and everything else needed to create this beautiful medium. And I especially love webcomics because unlike other mediums, there is usually no interference from executives or meddling from studios. For that reason though, I tend to be a bit gracious when it comes to reviewing them because they are often made by one person and don't have the budget nor time that other mediums have. That being said, here is 50 webcomics reviewed in 10 words or less. When you miss the bus, you commit war crimes! Once, there were dragons, but now, they're gone. How the fuck do we get rid of these dragons? Werewolves? Ghosts? Well, at least the rent's cheap. Blackmailing people doesn't get you a girlfriend. Flirting with death was never so literal. X-Men, 1886. Who needs translators when you have dream magic? Sometimes an everyone clap story is fun to read. My only experience with those. When in an arranged marriage, you commit war crimes!
Tactical nuke incoming!
Not everyone can be Magneto. Original character, do not steal. A wholesome story where nothing happens. Definitely. He's just a little guy. Cats do bootlegging. A cast of just warlocks. 2,000 shonen anime tropes for sale. 2,000 shonen anime tropes for sale. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This is why Tom Nook is a catalyst. Ice adolescents, coming never. And they were roommates. And they were monster fuckers. And they were monster fucker roommates. A literal sleep paralysis demon. Cyberpunk, 1995. Lupin III in space!
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Yeah, important story stuff, but look at that food! Even spirit mediums have generational trauma. Love, nepotism, and robots. Flowers commit terrorism. Polyamory could fix most of this. R/egg IRL speedrun any percent. If we make Batman nice, we make money! Octopath Traveler done right. Not Dorothy, not Alice, but we'll kick your ass. All thieves need VTubers. Everyone wants an emo witch girlfriend. Everyone wants a buff camp counselor girlfriend. Everyone wants revenge. Nuh-uh, I'm magic proof as well. Saddest way to have a fish out of water. Princess Zelda syndrome is spreading. HGTV, the isekai. I identify as a threat. No. And that is all 50. Now on to the reviews. Code Helix is a lot like Death Note, with two characters playing mind games to each other, and a protag who develops a god complex. But also like Death Note, Code Helix nosedives near the end of the story and completely derails the plot, making the entire story leave a bitter taste in your mouth. Horror is one of the hardest genres to write well, but School Bus Graveyard pulls it off brilliantly with moody atmosphere, amazing creature design, and actual stakes. However, this story is best read blind, so I won't reveal anymore. Have fun reading! Dickheads annoys me, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It knows what it's doing, so I can't really get mad at it. I personally just don't like the tropes to use, because love triangles frustrate me to no end. But I know that some people like them, given the entire fandom just wants the three main characters to realize that polyamory exists. So while the comic has fun characters and scenarios, it's just not for me. It's a tie. So Nimona and Lackadaisy are both really good and worth of the read, but their animated versions are better in my opinion. With Nimona, there is an 11-year gap between the original version of the story and the movie, so the creator Indy Stevenson had the time to repolish it, making it better overall. And with Lackadaisy, with all the attention to detail and general structuring of the story, it is more suited to animation. So while both versions of Nimona and Lackadaisy are good, if you're going to choose one to start with, I would say use the animated one. Most webcomics, in my opinion, are not bad, given the time and care put into them, and Marry My Husband is a prime example of that, because it's exactly what it says on the tin, being really predictable, but the story is really entertaining. So if you want a story of bad people getting comeuppance with an office meet cute as well, you could do worse. So as many of you know, if you watch the channel, I really enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen. But what you may not know is that I also love 90s cartoons. Well, Paranol says, why not both? With a cool power system and action scenes similar to JJK and Chainsaw Man, witty dialogue, hilarious facial reactions, and some of the best layouts I've seen. I mean, look at this! One note though, halfway through chapter 7 due to the creator's wrist problems, the story switches to a text-heavy format with pictures. And while the writing is still amazing, it can be jarring for some readers, but definitely worth checking out. The early days of webcomics mostly consisted of daily gag comics, and a lot of those were genre parodies. Spinnerette is one such comic, spoofing the superhero genre. And while the comic changed over time to have longer story arcs and serious moments, randomly, it will jump back to being a gag comic in tone. And while it has interesting characters who feel real, oftentimes major character moments will happen off screen, like for instance, the main characters getting engaged. Also, this is not a major issue for me because I know I'm not the target audience, but the fan service is way too much in my opinion. It gets less as the comic goes on, but it's still a noteworthy thing to point out. Overall, Spinnerette is a fun read that leaves somewhat of a sour taste in my mouth. When the comic industry took off in the 40s, artists were limited by the colors of the printer. This led to many artists having to get creative by using limited color palettes. This has mostly died out due to digital coloring, but Stand Still and Stay Silent has kept this tradition alive. The limited color palette of the book adds an ever-present feeling to the world, with it being blanketed in cold blues, whites, and grays, with the looming specter of red leaking through the cracks of the world. And while I could give story details, honestly, this story should be experienced with fresh eyes. Before we get to number 1, I would like to talk about some honorable mentions. Aurora is a webcomic made by Red of Overly Sarcastic Productions fame, and has awesome world building and amazing effects, and lots of dragons. Kill 6 Billion Demons has some of the best backgrounds I've seen, so full of detail, creating a world that feels vast and lived in. I recommend reading it with slap bass or doom music playing in the background. Ava's Demon has amazing art and oftentimes full-on animation or music videos. It stretches the definition of comic. Scurry has some of the most beautifully rendered art I have ever seen, and the plot is Watership Down plus Fallout. Emmy the Robot is a webcomic following the escapades of a robot made in a futuristic 50s-like world. I like almost any robot story, and this one is especially great, with planned obsolescence being the villain. I really don't want to be bashing on something everyone else did 3 years ago, but of the 50 webcomics I read, this is the worst one. While Boyfriends has somewhat nice art, the jokes and characters are one note and lack any real depth. And mostly above all, it's just plain boring. I will admit up front, I have a bias towards Hooky, because it is what got me into webcomics. However, I still think it's warranted being number 1 because Hooky is one of the best things I have ever read. Stunning art, memorable characters, and a story that made me a better person. And I think everyone, at least at some point, should read Hooky. Thank you all so much for watching. This is my first real big project, so I hope you all enjoy. All the webcomics will be linked down below, and there is a spreadsheet as well with my full thoughts on each of them. Bye!